It has the cake is dope apple cider.
What?
Dope hard cider.
Okay.
And then in the filling, I made you a diagram. There's a filling in the middle. There's a apple pie filling with Fireball in it, and then the top of it it's called White Mountain Cream. It's like a sticky frosting that has Crown Royal apple in it, and then a little apple chip and a Red Hot, and that was my mother's.
Apple chip and a Red Hot. I love it.
My mother's favorite frosting. So, except she didn't put the.
Let me see the diagram.
Crown Royal in it. So.
It's amazing.
I love it. Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Youngstown Click Be Connected podcast. I am so excited about this episode. I mean, guys, this one is going to be so good. So we have Brad Gessner, who, okay, you know what? Before I go into sponsors or where we're coming from, I want them to know who we're going to be talking to today. So Brad, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll pause, talk about the sponsors, and then we're going to get right into it. I don't know if you guys see these delicious cupcakes here. Just all I'm going to say is stay tuned. It's going to be great. So Brad, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Brad Gessner. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for 38 years. I was born and raised in Youngstown in Austintown.
Okay.
I go back. My grandmother was born in Youngstown in 1894.
Nice.
So,
you're through and through.
My roots are here, and besides the law, I'm a frustrated baker. And as a result of that, I got to do something pretty interesting this summer.
Yes. Okay, so before we go any further, I want to tell you that where we are coming from, we're coming from the Gallagher in downtown Youngstown. The Gallagher is recently renovated, over 100 years old, and they redid it. There's long-term apartments and Airbnbs. Now, I just showed some people some Airbnbs today, and they were just floored. So if you guys have family or friends coming in from out of town, you definitely want to check out the Gallagher. They're on Facebook. They could link to the different listings. But Brad, you happen to mention that so a lot of people remember this area as Cedars. It used to be Cedar, or this building.
That's in the recent past.
Yeah, but you remember something before that. Tell us about that.
When I was little, we used to come down to McKelvey's, which was across the street.
Okay.
And if I was good, my mother would bring my grandmother and my sister and I, and this was called the Italian restaurant.
Wow.
And it was for me, I mean, when I was a little kid, it was legendary. This is where I first learned about Italian greens.
Are you serious?
And I'm an Italian greens fanatic
really?
To this day,
so all that
because of this restaurant right here.
That is really cool. Now that is Youngstown history. So this is so cool because he was asking about, hey, wasn't this the Italian restaurant? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then we went and looked at a picture that I've looked at so many times. And sure enough, it's like a historic picture of this building that's in the lobby. And sure enough, right there, it said Italian restaurant.
This was it.
I love it. You're the first person to say that.
So you take me back with my mother and my grandmother here. And
it's affected your entire life in a positive way.
Do you know that you don't find Italian greens most places other than Youngstown?
That is true.
We're a pretty special place here.
Yes, and we're about to get into that, okay?
Yep, that's why I've got my shirt on here.
Brag a little about Youngstown. Go ahead and tell them where you got that.
This is from Youngstown Clothing Company. It's just perfect for what we're doing. And if you look downtown and see what's going on here, and you see Penguin City, you see the Cavelli, all the different events and that in our town,
absolutely,
we need recognition for the stuff we do.
Oh, my goodness.
So you had these steel mills that, were national powerhouses that were all here in Youngstown.
Yeah.
And you drive up along the areas and see what used to be.
Yeah.
And people around the country don't know just what we are and who we are.
Right.
So, like I said, I was born and raised in this area, and I'm sure I'll be here till the end.
I love it.
And we need to talk about ourselves.
We do, because we're amazing. And the people, the qualities, not to brag or pat ourselves on the back, but the qualities exhibited in the people here is noticed not only by people who are from here and leave and come back, but by people coming from outside in or businesses. There's a quality that we have just naturally. And yet over the course of time, we've learned to just be like, oh, it's Youngstown. It's, it's a has-been, or we're just trying to make ends meet. We're trying to, just survive. And yet I'm really happy to see this kind of like the churn of positive feedback about who we are and where we're at and everything.
Yeah, I mean, these apartments are so beautiful. I mean, had we known about these and had they been around when my daughter got married, these would have been perfect for out-of-town guests.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, so those of you who are listening who can't necessarily take a look inside right now, just trust that they really are.
Unbelievable.
Thank you for saying that. All right, and we also want to thank our other sponsor, OhioFlame.com. They do custom-made fire pits. It's all steel forged. You could customize it with your logo, your brand. It'll definitely be the talk of the bonfire. And, one thing that we always say is nothing brings strangers together to become friends quite like a bonfire. You get invited to a bonfire.
Fire out back.
You got to have it. Right. And so to have a quality fire pit for somebody who likes bonfires is definitely a must. And they're made from steel right in Columbiana, Ohio. So thank you to Ohio Flame for sponsoring the Youngstown Click Be Connected podcast. And now that we have that out of the way, let's get into what we're going to here to talk about today. So Brad, you were recently on a national show, but it took you into international waters, right?
Yes.
So go ahead and tell us about this exciting venture that you just completed. And guys, the venture, everything that we're about to talk about, it will be premiering later on this month, the show that he competed on. So go ahead and tell them what you did.
Okay. On May 24th on the Roku channel will be season 2 of the Great American Baking Show. This is in England in the tent with Paul Hollywood, with Prue Leith. The hosts are Zach Cherry from Severance and Casey Wilson from Saturday Night Live and Happy Endings. And 8 of the best bakers in America.
And
one of them from Youngstown, Ohio.
Come on. So that had to have been such a blast. Tell us a little bit about, so the Great American Baking Show is the U.S., arm, I guess, of a British show, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So this, I think, is the 14th year of the Great British Bake Off if you're in England.
Okay.
If you're looking on Netflix, it's the Great British Baking Show because Pillsbury owns the Bake Off name in the United States.
Always rules.
So we were in the tent in England.
Okay.
We had Paul Hollywood and Prue Leith, the judges of the Great British Baking Show.
Okay.
And we had the cast or camera crew, everyone from England in there filming it.
Wow.
And it's the same production company, Love Productions. They have a UK and then they have a United States version, same production company.
And this is season 2 on the Roku.
Yes.
Which is free to watch as long as you have a smart TV. The Roku channel is free to watch.
Right.
So
RokuChannel.com. You go on there, just put your email and a password in, and you get access. And you can.
So you can watch it online or on the internet.
You can watch it on the internet. You can watch it on your phone. If you've got a stick on your TV or a smart TV,
then you can watch it there.
Roku's on almost everything already.
Okay. And now you guys do want to watch it because we get to see this guy. And so we're not going to have any spoilers. I don't even know. They are so good at keeping everything under wraps. But tell us a little bit about how you got there. Like, were you watching the show? And then we're going to get a little bit into how you started baking from being in law, but we'll get to that. But so talk to us about when did you apply and when did you get the idea hey, I'm going to go compete against some of the best bakers in the country?
Well, for years I've watched the snippets of the Great British Baking Show when that was either on Netflix or on other channels or that, and it was always something interesting.
Okay.
And I always looked and said, okay, I bake. I wonder if I could do that. So and that's the thing. Everyone always second guesses themselves.
Yeah, of course.
And we just you find out in life you just need more confidence because it's there.
Wow.
And one day I was sitting in my office. I'm chief counsel at the Summit County Prosecutor's Office in Akron, Ohio.
Wow.
And one of our prosecutors came in, Jay Cole, and Jay said, there's this baking show. You need to be on it. And I
Just
said,
like that.
I said, are you serious? He goes, hey, what you make, I've
know
watched
what?
you. And that, I mean, I made him a birthday cake. Ultimately, when he retired, I made him a really nice birthday cake that said, you're going to miss us
that's
on it. But
That's great.
and occasionally I would take things into the office. And he goes, you need to apply for this.
Wow.
And he just wouldn't stop.
Where would we be without good friends like that? You know?
So he
That's
came
amazing.
in multiple times and says, look, I mean, here's the information, and you've got to go on and fill out this application. And
Okay.
and he would come back and he would tell me all this stuff about it.
Okay.
So I started paying attention a little bit more, and I decided, and this was in 2019.
Okay.
I thought, you know what? Let me submit an application.
Okay.
And you go online, and it's very easy. It just takes a while.
Okay.
And they ask you about your baking experience. They ask you how long you've been baking.
Yeah.
What they want to know who you are and what you're all about.
Of course.
So I submitted this in, and back in 2019, we had an exchange student from Germany, and that summer my son was going to go to visit him in Germany.
Okay.
And I had submitted my application. I think it was before we left home that night, and I was driving out to Boardman Library to take Connor to his trip meeting.
Okay.
And on the way out, the phone rings, and it was a California number. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a telemarketer.
Right.
So I hit the button. I said, hello. And this woman said, did you recently apply for a baking show? And I said, yes. And she goes, okay, well, we have a quiz you have to go through. And I'd like to ask you these questions about baking things.
Okay.
And so she asked the questions, and my son's just sitting there cracking up.
Right.
And I'm answering the question. She's going, you got that one right. You got that one right. And then she said, so you're serious about wanting to do this show?
Yeah.
So we talked for a while, and a few emails went back and forth. And they invited me to come up to New York City on a Saturday afternoon and bring 2 items of my choice that I baked. And they would send me a recipe of something they wanted me to bake.
Oh, okay.
So
that had been fun. Okay.
So because sometimes I'm a bit crazy, I think it was 5:00 in the morning, my wife and I loaded the coolers and that in the back of the car and drove to New York City for my 3:00 appointment. We pulled in. Now we did get lost. Geez. I spent some time in Queens that I didn't intend to do.
Right.
I got there just in time and went in, and I met with a producer.
Yeah.
And she went through the items I'd made, and she gave me some suggestions. Okay. She did a little bit of quizzing me on, do I know this? Do I know that? And maybe I should try this and try that. With my cake, she said, okay, what kind of frosting is this? And I told her it's buttercream. She goes, oh, have you thought about using Swiss buttercream or Italian buttercream? And she goes, because I think this cake would be a lot better that way. So I went home, didn't think much of it. And then they called me back and said, would you be available this summer? And I said, well, because we were going to meet, my daughter was already in Italy. My son had just, was in Germany. Said, we're going to meet up there. And he said, when? So that was the last I heard from them. And so then COVID hit. Yeah. Everything shut down. And then last year I applied again. And this time I was invited to come to Chicago for a tasting. So my wife and I loaded up the car and drove to Chicago, met with the producers. And then it continued on to the point where they called me up not quite a year ago and said, well, we're going to make some plans for you. So that led me to the tent.
At this point, so the tent, if you haven't seen the show, the tent is like epic in the show, right? Because you go into explain the tent.
Okay, we're in a park. And if you look in it, the tent, I think, has 3 different points on it. It looks almost like a circus tent from a distance.
Okay, yeah.
And if you come up to it and you walk inside, I mean, there are bunnies around. I mean, there all types of bees and flies.
It's all in the natural.
And you walk inside, and the sides of the tent are open, And there were 8 baking stations.
Wow.
Each one a different pastel color.
Okay.
There was a matching refrigerator. I mean, we had
What color were you?
I can't tell you.
Oh, you can't say. Okay. That's done. Okay. So all these baking stations.
Okay. And I mean, fully decked out. The little is it invection or whatever the stove is that you can put a pot on and it's not hot induction. Induction burner on the end. Okay. A couple of those. And then you had your wooden counter, and then there was a sink. You had drawers. You had every type of baking device.
No way.
KitchenAid mixer.
Was it like you're like a dream? Like, oh.
It was a little dream. Yeah. So
wow.
It was one of those things that I looked and went, my wife tells me I have too many baking items at home. And I've always said, no.
I don't have enough.
I looked at what they had and said, I think I'm pretty well stocked. So
really?
So I did come back from England with a few other items
extra.
that I hadn't had before.
Okay, so you got to go to England, which is really cool.
Yes, so we're filmed there.
How long was the filming process?
The filming is over a month, so basically all of August.
Wow.
So
how is England in August? Is it pretty nice, or is it
England
rainy?
in August is sort of like we're doing right now.
Okay.
So the heat really hits in August and September.
Okay.
So we were fortunate. I mean, there were rainy days, and there are a lot of rainy days.
Yeah.
But it was cool to warm, and I mean, we had 50 degrees in the morning, 70 degrees in the afternoon.
Oh, nice.
So, but
now, just as a pause from the baking show part, what is the coolest thing that you did in England during that time, other than being on the show and stuff like that? Did you see anything cool or go anywhere cool or?
Well, when the show was all over.
Okay,
my wife came over to meet me.
Okay.
And we ended up, because it was actually our anniversary while I was in the tent. So we went to Disneyland Paris. So we left England and went over for a little trip in Paris after it.
Oh, how cool. What a anniversary to remember. My goodness, that's amazing. Did you take that train or whatever, or did you drive?
No, we ended up, we flew. We flew
from England
from London to Paris.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That
ended
makes
up
sense.
Air France was cheaper than the train was.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, oh, how fun. Okay, so back to the show.
Yes.
So you're in England. Now, how long have you been baking? So you have a background in law.
Yes.
So real quick, catch us up, like what all you have, like your background in law. And then how did baking factor into this?
Okay,
because a lot of legal people are like stressed out and that's all they got time for, you know? They don't got time to be a world-class baker.
Baking preceded law.
Oh, okay.
So when I grew up in a neighborhood where my grandmother was 12 houses down the street. And my dad built a house in the upper block from it. And I had my uncle down with my grandmother, and then 2 blocks over, another uncle lived. 3 blocks over, my aunt,
nice.
And up across the street, my dad's. So I had my mom's family on one side, Mahoning, my dad's family on the other side, and my other grandmother lived, and I had both of my grandmothers in walking distance from my house.
Oh my goodness,
so,
that's beautiful.
So my grandmother was an amazing baker. She had 6 kids. And I mean, during the Depression, she raised her family.
Wow.
So she learned to do everything. Wow. And my mother was the youngest of 6.
Okay.
And so she learned. She had 2 sisters that were always baking and making things. And my mother could do anything. And when I was 6 years old, my mother would always bake for the Canfield Fair.
Really?
And so
and enter the stuff.
She always entered. Okay. And my mother never did a little of anything. She always was overboard. So she would, if there were 12 categories of cakes, she made 12 cakes. So
that's amazing.
As I'm there, and what I didn't realize was I was involved in involuntary servitude because all the pans need greased and floured and all that.
And that was just your job.
That's what I did. So somehow in that mix, my mother decided I needed to enter something in the fair.
Okay.
So I made an angel food cake when I was 6 years old.
What?
And
entered it.
And we entered it in the fair. And I remember still watching at the stove when it baked, and it just kept going up and up and up over the top of the pan.
Wow.
And then you took it out and you had those old quart pop bottles that you had to put it on upside down so your
Really?
cake wouldn't fall.
Wow.
And I entered the fair.
Yeah.
And they had a men's division, and there were probably a dozen cakes or whatever, and I won first prize.
Oh,
So I beat my older brother. So I think he got second.
And so a 6-year-old won the men's division?
Yes.
That's I'm sure that went over beautifully. Oh, that's amazing. Wow. At 6 years old, that's okay. Wow. Okay, so then you just loved it.
Yeah. I mean, I had both of my parents. My dad was a bricklayer, and my parents were these people who they could do anything. I mean, we didn't have repairmen come to the house or that. I mean, my dad, if something broke, my dad fixed it.
Wow.
And if you needed something, we would go out, and if I saw something that was really cool, my mother would come home and figure out how to make it. Or you'd go eat something for dinner at a restaurant and they'd say, oh, that was good. I wonder how they make it. She would figure it out. And this is before the internet.
Man.
So
incredible.
She was just, she passed away 2 years ago, 2 weeks before she would have turned 96.
Oh my goodness.
So,
wow. They don't make them like that anymore.
Oh no. And she was a force to be reckoned with.
Was she Italian?
No, she's English. English and German.
So look at that. It took you back to England. How cool is that? Yes. And German. Okay, so you had, wow.
Yes, so my grandmother was 100% English, my mom's mom, but she was born here in Youngstown.
Okay.
And she said that back then, the English weren't known for being great cooks. So she said fortunately she had a German mother-in-law who taught her to cook.
Really?
So grandma could make anything, mom could make anything, Aunt Betty could make anything, Aunt Ethel could make anything.
Wow.
And so I just continued to bake over the years.
Yeah.
I remember when I got my first apartment, I was working for a short period of time in Medina County in the prosecutor's office.
Okay.
And I had an apartment, and I remember looking in magazines and going, that looks pretty cool. I think I can make that. I made a soccer tort when I was probably about 26, 27.
Wow.
And then when my wife and I got married, we actually went to Austria, and I had a real soccer tort.
Really?
So it's that idea that, if you want something, you can do it.
Figure it out.
And just have that confidence in yourself. And if things don't, and the great thing about baking is if things don't come out the way you wanted, usually when you put sugar and butter and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. They're still good. It may not be what it was supposed to be, but it still tastes good.
Right.
Or there's always a trash can.
Right.
But
hey, you know what? It's such a good thing of life. I love hearing that because it's inspirational even in life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just hearing about people like that, or even those lessons that baking or anything that you figure it out and then you try again and you get better. And in the kitchen, it's one thing, but in life, sometimes we're like, oh no, you know what I'm saying? We kind of hold it. So this is interesting because I met you at the Penguin City Night Market.
Last month, yes.
Yes, last month. And I'm going to tell on myself because I am on its 90-day challenge.
I didn't tell anybody.
And I walked by his table and I was like, oh, what's this? And I had done so good passing up all the other sweets. I was like, oh, I'm doing so good. And then I see this, the Youngstown tune-up and the Buckeye cupcakes.
Boozy Buckeye cupcake.
Oh my goodness. So I decided to have one and I was like, I didn't take a picture of it. I didn't post it because I was like, I'm not going to tell on myself, but now I'm telling on myself. Oh my goodness. Once I was like, I sat down a few minutes later and I thought, well, I'm going to have just a little bit tonight and then I'll have the rest tomorrow. And I ate the entire thing and literally there were other people there trying to talk and stuff. And I was just like I ignored everybody for a minute so I could enjoy this cupcake. So these are cupcakes that you have. Now, can people buy them other than like at the night markets and stuff like that?
No,
so you just
not right
pop
now.
up. Okay.
So maybe someday if I retire,
Yeah.
And then my daughter says I'm Baker Brad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's what his table says. I love it.
So if I retire from practicing law, I may have a retirement gig.
Yes.
So,
Oh, we got to get back to your law thing too. Okay. So see, I'm bouncing because this is what sugar does. No, I'm kidding. I haven't had any yet. But guys, so if you see him, are you going to be at the rest of the Penguin City Night Markets?
Right, this Thursday night.
Okay.
So what's the 15th? 17th?
The 17th.
From
okay.
5 to 9 at Penguin City.
Okay.
They have a night market.
Yes.
And I mean, again, you just, if you've never been to Penguin City, it's a treat just to walk in the building and see this old steel mill repurposed into this brewery. And then you go in the back and it's the ballroom.
Yeah.
And I mean, big mirror ball light there and everything.
Yeah.
And these crafters and bakers from our area.
Yeah.
And so
it's so cool to see how much economic value and events and community that place brings together. They're more than just, oh, hey, we're a brewery. They actually are like doing events and constantly bringing people together, and they have the space to do it. So that's really cool. Yeah.
So I ended up figuring if I was going to do that, I needed something connected to Youngstown.
Okay.
So there's a cupcake based on the drink, the Irish Car Bomb, but we figured we have a Youngstown tune-up here. So my cupcake had Penguin City coffees, their dark coffee beer in it.
Okay.
It had Jack Daniels in the chocolate ganache in the middle, and it had Bailey's Irish cream in the frosting, and a cherry on top.
And it's in a cherry. You can't forget the cherry. So he drew this little diagram. I'm going to show you just in case you can't see it. So it has the cake, and then the ganache right there in the heart of the cupcake, and then the buttercream frosting, which in my opinion is the best frosting, the only true frosting. And then the Buckeye has the little Buckeyes on top, and the tune-up has a cherry on top.
Right.
So
and the
good.
Buckeyes have peanut butter liqueur in those.
Oh,
and,
right.
And spiced rum in the ganache.
My goodness. So so at this point you create recipes. So now you're not just making other people's, right? I mean, like
right. When you watch on the Great American Baking Show, what you see us make are our recipes.
Wow.
So I mean, we didn't come in and say, okay, here's a recipe, make this.
Right.
We had to come up with our own recipes
Right
for
there
the
on the spot?
challenges. No, they tell you ahead of time.
Okay.
So this is cake week. This is cookie
Got
week.
it.
This is bread week.
Okay,
So
okay.
you know.
wow, you did the whole gamut.
So you got to watch the show.
Okay, I gotta watch the show. I'm definitely gonna watch the show.
So you know what you're going to do, your signature dessert. You then know your showstopper, but in the middle they give you a technical challenge that you don't know. Oh. And it may be the majority of a recipe.
Yeah.
It may be, just for example, last year's show.
Okay.
So season 1 on Roku.
Yeah.
Last year they said they were making, one of their technical challenges was to make macarons.
Okay.
And it said in the recipe, my understanding was, use the Italian method.
Oh.
That was the recipe.
Oh.
So
Man. Would you have known that?
yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. But I make the French method for my macarons. They come out better for me.
What?
So they're all.
Isn't that something? All the baker stuff. But
Yes.
I guess that's what makes bakers great. Wow. Okay, so let's go back to law.
Okay.
So baking was part of your blood, right?
Yes.
And can we talk real quick? I'm bouncing again about the notebook that you had with you the entire time.
I have. So my mother,
Or I
like I
guess it's on
said,
a-
my mother, baked forever. And she was
Yeah.
also one of those people, she was always involved in any activity that her kids were in. She was the parent who always figured out how to raise money for that event. And
Are you serious?
I got some of
You
that
got
off
some.
her. I guess it's in the genes. And so in 1960, my mother was, I think, the president of the John W. Davis PTA in Austintown.
Okay.
For the elementary school.
Okay.
So one of them there. And they did recipe books. And over the years, they did additional ones. But this was her first one. And this was in 1960.
Wow.
So, and butterballs, brownies. These are, if you go to a wedding in Youngstown, and again, Youngstown
Staples.
cookie table, you don't find that in the rest of the world.
You don't. Youngstown.
So for my daughter's wedding, I made, I think, all but 1 or 2 of these cookies.
Wow.
So on her we had 400 dozen cookies at my daughter's wedding.
Oh my,
So,
400
yeah,
dozen. How many is that?
my wife and I made 300 dozen of them.
Wow.
And then there was another plus
Incredible.
I made her wedding cake. So,
Oh well, yeah. Who else would she trust to do
yeah.
that, right?
So mom's recipes that my wife laminated them several years ago for me because they were starting to fall apart. So those went into the tent with me. They were in my pocket.
How cool that she got.
Right. So
that
mom
connection.
would have been so thrilled about me being on this show. So back in 2019, when she said to me, well, after I went to New York, she said, are they having you on that show? And I go, I didn't get a call back. And she said, well, the hell with them. She would have just, but I mean, when when she turned 94, she had some health problems and she moved into an assisted living at Ironwood out in Campfield. And I would go out there every day and we'd sit and watch TV and that. And we watched the Great British Baking Show. And
no way.
She had her comments. They were usually about the judges, or why are they making that?
Yeah.
So I figured, Mom, if I was in the tent, Mom had to be there with me. So this was my little thing to make sure she was there.
And how creative that she did that, like a little notebook to say, hey, for the cookie table, here's all the recipes. That's genius.
Yep.
Like, like you hear about people compiling cookbooks, but it's like, oh, your best recipes. But to have that thing to say, hey, it's the cookie table recipes. I've never heard of anybody else doing that. That's pretty cool.
Well, this Sunday, there's also, if you go on Facebook, there's the wedding cookie table group. So there's a Youngstown cookie table group.
Okay.
Linda Sproul's the director and runs that.
Okay.
But there's also a wedding cookie table group because we compete with Pittsburgh over who really has the best cookie table. Now, Youngstown wins without any question.
Of course.
But the Pittsburgh group, they just had a cookie table on the Today Show about a month ago, I think for Valentine's Day.
Got it.
And they have what's called the Cookie College. And it's, I think, 350 people are coming to this, and I'm going to do a demonstration at it. I'm going to make Mom's filled tarts.
No way.
Demonstrate that. And
you're going to demonstrate it like on site?
On site. So they have multiple demonstrations going on. They have vendors. So I guess if you need a new Pitzell iron, they have the company there selling them.
And that's in Pittsburgh.
In
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Happening. How fun is that? So then when people go, do they get to try your cookies?
So I'll take 100 of my cookies that they'll have someone come out who is a professional cookie table displayer.
Okay.
And they will make the table. And I think the tickets are sold out for this event. They're having another one before Christmas, but they have 234,000 members on their Facebook page.
Oh my! I need to join that.
So our cookie tables here in Youngstown. So they look
expanded.
They look at Youngstown as being their sister group in this. And Stacy Adger, she's a baker in Youngstown. She's been there and she's had her things displayed there. So
how fun!
So I'll probably see her this weekend.
Yeah, right. I can imagine that being really cool. Okay, so we'll come back to your law thing, but tell us about some of the people that you met, the other contestants, without sharing anything you're not allowed to share. But
all right,
talk about
I can go through because somehow we became a family, and it was almost immediate.
Really?
And what I'm thinking, and the reason for that is, first of all, they're all just such nice people. And someone said, well, we deal in sweets all the time, so we have to be.
That's true. That's true, right.
I mean, we would go walk to the grocery store because in between episodes being filmed, you would be practicing for another challenge. So we'd have to, in our apartments there, we all had our little apartments, and we had a driver that every 6 o'clock in the morning, they'd drive us out to the tent. And they'd have breakfast and lunch for us there. And we'd be there till about 7 or 8 at night.
Wow.
But you'd come back, and on your days off, you'd go bake. So, so we'd walk to the store, we'd go out to dinner together. And what the most amazing thing is finding that if you go into a grocery store in England, it's not going to a grocery store in Youngstown.
Really?
Flowers are different. I mean, the amount of fat, the weights and that in them. Butters are different. Creams, we have heavy cream. There's single cream. There's double cream. And neither of those are our heavy cream.
Really?
There's no cornstarch. There's corn flour. There are about 40 different types of sugar. So table sugar is not baking sugar. That's castor sugar. Your
What?
brown sugars, everything's different. So
Interesting.
our recipes that we may have come with and practiced with and created here don't necessarily come out the same way there, let alone in a tent outside.
Right. Okay, because there's humidity and moisture or whatever. Is that right?
So,
okay.
And I mean, just another example was I had a recipe that called for black raspberries.
Okay.
Okay. So in this area, there are red raspberries, and sometimes in the summer you find black raspberries,
Right.
not blackberries.
Okay.
So we got
Black
blueberries, red raspberries,
black
black raspberries. Yeah, there's I think it's Dylan's farm, maybe out in Lisbon.
Okay.
You can go pick black raspberries there.
No
the first
way.
week in July, it's just amazing.
Are they sweeter than red raspberries?
They're sweeter than red raspberry. They're a little bit finer. They have a little bit more seeds. So my wife won't eat them. She doesn't like the seeds. But I grew up on black raspberries.
Really? I'll
So
have to check
I
Dylan's
had a
one.
recipe with black raspberries.
Yeah.
And you send them to the producers and they go, okay. And they might say, you need to tweak this, you need to tweak that.
Okay.
So when we get there, I go through and there was a grocery store not that far from us that, I mean, it was the size of a giant eagle. I didn't realize they'd have stores that big.
Oh, right.
And I look through the produce section and I see red raspberries, I see blackberries, I see blueberries. I don't see black raspberries. So I go over to the freezer section, I look and I say, okay, I see blackberries, I see red raspberries.
no.
So I get back to the apartment and I emailed the producer and said, do you know there's a difference between blackberries and black raspberries? And my recipe calls for black raspberries.
Yeah.
And the response was, we don't have those here.
That was it.
So what's your option on this? So those things happen, but every one of us in that tent had those exact same things happen to us.
So the resilience and the being able to roll.
And we were all there. You'll see people helping each other when you watch this show. And
really?
that, and since we've gotten finished with the show, we have a chat, we communicate.
I love it.
Pretty much, if it's not every day, it's every week.
Yeah.
And we had a Zoom Christmas party. We did a gift exchange, a Secret Santa.
That is cool.
We
That
just
is
did a
cool.
Zoom last week, so we figured
did you ever try?
before it hit.
Did you ever try their stuff and go, "Oh man, I don't know"? Because obviously you know how good your stuff
You
is.
tried their stuff and you go, "Oh my God, are they good?"
And then, oh man,
I mean,
been.
it was one thing after another. You were just so impressed by everyone, and they were just the nicest people. So there's, Jen, she's a dentist in New York City.
Oh wow. Okay.
Victoria, she's a young mother. She's in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
And then Nicole, she's a leather crafter, and was it Walker, Minnesota? I don't know why that one stuck in my head.
Right. Okay.
RJ, he was in the Air Force. He's now he and his wife live just, I think, north of San Francisco.
Okay.
Ro Yoon, she's I think a computer engineer in San Francisco.
Okay.
Chris, he's retired from real estate. He's in Santa Barbara. And Mackenzie, she's an auditor of some type, and she's got 3 little girls. And and her husband's a police officer. They're in San Diego.
Oh, nice.
And it was cool. Her father had been an investigator in the San Diego District Attorney's Office.
No
so the
way.
same type
So
of
there
office
was-
I worked in.
Oh, that's cool. That's wow.
So I mean, they were all just.
Look at that. You had to go to England to meet some really cool Americans.
Yes, we did. And
That
they're
is
all
really
so cool.
cool.
So
Wow.
I'm going to let them know where to watch this podcast. So
Yeah.
hi everybody.
All right. And you guys, just as a reminder, you guys will be able to tune in on the 24th, May 24th. Season 2 is premiering. So everything that he's talking about, you'll be able to see very soon. You know,
All
sometimes
6 shows drop the same day.
Oh, do they? I was gonna ask. Okay.
But I mean, you might just want to do one a week because they're that good. And they're going to make you really hungry. So
Your
it's
mouth
sort of
will
like
be
you're going to
watering.
watch an episode
You
and go,
better- yes.
I need cake.
Here's the thing. You better come on Thursday, stock up your cupcakes so that when you're watching the show, you'll like put them in the freezer. Do they freeze well?
Yes.
Okay.
They don't last long enough usually to freeze, but
No, I can attest to that. Okay, so while we're still on this, let's talk about this new creation.
Okay.
That you have created
Okay.
because this uses. I mean, I love that you. Okay, I'll let you explain it.
Okay, so I made the Youngstown tune-up, and that was with Penguin City Beer.
Yes, okay.
So this is the Jackrabbit Fireball, and it is a cupcake made with Dope Cider House in front of
That's
Penguin
amazing.
City.
In the
their
cake.
in the cake
Okay.
is their apple cider, their hard apple cider, and then there's a filling in this that is it's like a caramelized apple, like an apple pie, but has Fireball. Fireball whiskey added to it.
Oh my.
And
Oh,
then
my.
on the top, there's a frosting my mother used to always make. It's called Mountain Cream. If you go to Fanny Farmer's old cookbook, you can find white Mountain Cream.
Really?
And that one, we added some Crown Royal apple to that.
Oh my! I have some friends who love Crown Royal apple, so they're going to go nuts over this.
And then we've got a little red hot and a little apple chip on top to finish it off. And then I took my torch to the top. So
and kind of
it's a
burnt
fireball.
it a little bit.
It's got to have some fire on it. So,
All right. So the Jackrabbit Fireball. Are you going to have these at the Penguin City?
I'll have some of those Thursday
You'll have
night.
some of these. Okay,
So,
so
I'm seeing
you'll
where
have
else I
all-
can go.
right, yeah.
Down the road, I want to do a champagne cupcake with a clothespin cookie because every wedding you go to, my mom also made the greatest clothespin cookies in town. So
That's an
the
art.
recipe's right here.
I know. You could one day you'll be selling that for like 1.5 million.
So my daughter's got the dibs on that.
That's awesome. Oh man. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your law. Some people might recognize you because it sounds like you have been in the legal field for quite some time. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about. I did not know that you were a lawyer when I met you. And then I found out you were on the show. I was like, oh, I got to find out about this. But it's just amazing to me how like there's so many great people doing great things, so talented, and somehow it can still go over our heads in the same city.
Yep.
So that's why it's so exciting to be able to talk to you about this and pick your brain a little bit about your experiences. But legally, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I remember when I was in law school, I went to the University of Akron. I graduated from Walsh University in Canton,
Okay.
my undergraduate degree in history and English. And then I went to the University of Akron for law school.
Okay.
And I remember when I was, I think in my second year of law school, or maybe my third year, I stopped to see the county prosecutor to get any advice he may give me or that
Okay.
for my career. And what he said is, being a prosecutor is a good thing. He said, but I can open a phone book and show you all these lawyers, and we have too many lawyers in town. He said, you're young. He goes, go find some other place. And I was sort of disappointed. So I, that same break, it was, I think, Christmas break, I went to Washington, D.C., and I stopped, there to see our congressman's office.
Okay.
And I went back then before barriers and
Right.
everything
Different
else.
days, yeah.
I was able to go knock on the door and go in, and I walked in. They said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to see my congressman.
Okay.
And they took me in and into his office, and he said, I introduced myself, and he goes,
Yeah.
well, what are you here for? And I said, well, just seeing if this might be an office I want someday. So we talked there, and he told me, you need to go and get your degree, and you need to come back. We need to have people who go out and get these degrees to come back. He goes, because we have so much to offer here.
Wow.
So while I was in law school, I ended up being lucky enough. I worked at Walsh University while I was in law school.
Okay.
So I got a job in Canton in the city prosecutor's office. And then shortly after I passed the bar, a job opening came up in Medina County. So that's moving. The city prosecutor handles misdemeanors, the low-level cases.
Okay.
And there was a job in the county prosecutor's office in Medina, which I'd never been to in my life.
Wow.
Well, I go up for my interview, and my brother's roommate from college, he ultimately became Judge Christopher Collier in Medina.
Okay.
He comes bounding down the steps and says, what are you doing here? I mean,
No
I'd known him
way.
since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And he was the chief of the criminal division. So I started working there for a couple years.
Okay.
With him, and the prosecutor lost her election. And at that time, it was like, it's time to go home. So I came back. I worked here in the prosecutor's office for 7.5 years.
Wow.
And then I went to the law firm of Harrington, Hoppe and Mitchell.
Okay.
And I was there for 5 years when Sherry Bevan Walsh was elected prosecutor in Summit County. And and a friend of mine who worked there called me up and said, there's an opening up here and we need someone like you. And I said,
no way.
I said, no, I admit this. I worked with the greatest people at Harrington, Hoppe and Mitchell.
Yeah.
And I said, this is where I'm going to be the rest of my life.
Okay.
And I went home and I told my wife, and I said, Carolyn called and told me about this job. And she goes, well, don't turn something down before you check it out.
Oh, wow.
See, I married very well.
Smart. And we're going to come back to your wife and her business too.
So I got the best end of the deal there.
She sounds like a very wise woman.
She is. So I went up and I met this prosecutor. So Sherry Bevan Walsh was 5 days older than me.
Oh, okay.
Her kids were the same age as our kids.
Oh,
And it just clicked.
Yeah.
So as hard as it was to leave, I decided to go back to prosecuting. And so for the past 23 years, actually next week, 23 years, I've driven back and forth to Akron to work every day.
Wow.
And so I've risen up to where I'm chief counsel. Sherry retired a couple months ago, and so Elliot Kolkovich is our new prosecutor up there. And
Got it.
He's just this amazing young guy with all these great ideas about doing what's right.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
And that's
what you, that's definitely what you want to see.
So I have that, and I've tried just about any type of case you could ever try.
Wow.
Both in Mahoning County and Summit County, and it's not a fun thing to say, but I put people on death row because their crimes were that bad.
Wow.
We've done everything else. I've been on the state task force on mortgage frauds. We did the first mortgage fraud charges in Ohio when several years ago.
Because that.
And I'm currently on one involving First Energy in the scandal there in Columbus. So it's idea there that but I'm in offices that you do what's right.
Yeah, I like that.
So I like being a lawyer that I get to wear the good guy hat.
The good guy hat, right? That's amazing. Yeah. So what would you say is when you watch these shows on TV and you see the prosecution? Okay, so on a side note, speaking of shows, what shows do you enjoy watching as a prosecutor? I don't know, crime or whatever shows do you like? Do you like?
I watch. Well, I like comedies because sometimes you deal with enough serious stuff at work.
Right, but, you don't want to see it. Yeah.
But there's, let's see, the FBI International. I don't like the two other FBIs. I like the one in the middle because it's over in Europe and you get to see all the different things.
Okay,
and the bad people aren't us.
Yeah, so, right.
So I like that one, but Ghost is another one. I haven't
seen that one. Okay, that's a crime show?
No, Ghost is a comedy.
Oh, it's a comedy.
Yeah,
okay.
It's right after Young Sheldon. So Thursday.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Thursday night. Since Roku's not out yet with our show, Thursday night's the season ending of Young Sheldon, and then Ghost is on.
Okay.
But.
Okay.
I really don't have all that much time. I have 2 or 3 shows I watch.
And you're living it. You're living the real, the courts and stuff. So as a prosecutor, that seems to me like it would be a pretty stressful case. You're really, or a job, you're really making some people believe that there's justice, which is amazing. And then on the other side, you're making people mad.
It's that idea that we stand for what's right.
Yeah.
So as long as you have a prosecutor who knows what their job is. There was an editorial I read years ago, and it said the prosecutor makes decisions that change people's lives.
Right.
And if you don't have that in your heart when you're making these decisions, there are times, the majority of our cases get nowhere near a courtroom.
Okay.
We in Summit County, we indict 5,000 cases a year.
Wow.
We may have 150 trials.
Okay.
So there are 4,000 some there, the great majority that are resolved short of trial.
Okay.
And it's that idea of, victims, 99% of the time, victims didn't ask to be put in that situation.
Right,
But they
right.
need to know they have someone that's there for them
Yeah.
and someone who can not only be there for them, but guide them through that system they never wanted to be a part of.
Right. Okay.
And then you look, and I mean, I know the last death penalty case I tried in Mahoning County was in 1996.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
it was an individual named Mark Brown.
Okay.
And he was convicted of killing 2 store clerks off of Wick Park.
Oh, wow.
He told his friends he wanted to do a menace to society.
Oh,
and
my.
if you watch that movie, the first 2 minutes of the movie will tell you exactly what happened that night. And in there, I just looked at this 19-year-old kid who he never had a chance in life. And ultimately, in arguing before the jury, said, look, we're not judging him for who he is. We're judging him for what he did.
Yeah.
And it's that idea that you have to still, regardless of what happens, you have to have compassion for people.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of what, baking is this.
Yeah.
I do the tough stuff there, and I come home and I do
And
the
you
stuff
can-
that makes you
yeah.
enjoy life.
Right.
And because there are those decisions we make and the things that prosecutors get exposed to when there's
Yeah.
a terrible crime and you're getting ready to present that to trial.
Right.
You've got to go through all the photographs. You've got to go through all the medical reports on what the injuries were.
Man.
And it's hard to realize when you're doing this that everyone else in the world doesn't do this. They're
Right.
not exposed to these things.
No. Right.
And so, I mean, in the past few years, we've had people coming in talking to prosecutors going, you understand you deal with secondary trauma. You're exposed to it.
Right.
And it's like older prosecutors like me go, no, we're okay. But you have to have some outlet
Right.
to
So
deal
that's
with
where the
it.
baking.
That's where the baking comes in.
Wow. That is, you're right, because there's a lot of people, even people doing the right thing, but you look at them and you could tell it begins to wear on them personally because they carry the weight on their shoulders. So it is very, no matter what career that you choose or what you do, you have to have an outlet. Even just being a parent.
Right.
You're right. If you don't have an outlet and your life becomes totally about being a parent, it's going to become lopsided and you're not going to be the best that you could be. You have to have something that you do that enjoy and it kind of releases. Right. It's such a juxtaposition and you're such a good example of it because that's amazing. I mean, that the fact that you do something so important in society, but then the baking is like the beauty.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough that I had these 2 amazing parents.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad passed away my last week of law school. And he was a bricklayer. His scaffolding collapsed and we lost him from that. And then he passed away at 59 and my mother lived to 95. So I got one taken from me and I got one for extra time.
Yeah, right.
So, but it was that idea that what they taught me, my brother and my sister. I mean, my brother just retired a couple years ago. He was a dentist in Austintown. He lived in Canfield and he moved down to Birmingham to be with his kids and his grandchildren. My sister, she's a nurse. She lives up in Canton, and and her daughter's a lawyer up there.
Nice.
And it's that idea. Our parents taught us that you have responsibilities in life.
Yeah.
And you do things again like this. I mean, the kids had a bake sale. Okay, so they come home and say, my wife who's been at work home and doing everything at home in addition to work comes home and they go, okay, we need brownies for tomorrow. And I go, I'll make them. So it's that.
So tell us a little bit about that kind of like segues into something that you were doing before COVID shut everything down, which sounds like amazing. I would have loved to go to the school, so something that you did for the fundraising.
Well, my parents, first of all, exposed us to music. My mother was the youngest of 6 and my dad was the oldest of 5.
Okay.
So they were the opposites, but they were born the same year and they both were born right before the Depression.
Wow.
So my mother's father was a deputy sheriff, and so they had a government job.
Okay.
My dad's family wasn't as fortunate.
Right.
So my dad had a really tough life growing up in that, and he had always wanted to play an instrument, and there was never the opportunity for it. Oh. So my brother, he's 6 years older than me, my brother's, what instrument are you playing? My sister, what instrument are you playing? Me, what instrument am I playing? And there used to be a band in the area. It was a youth band called the Warren Junior Military Band.
Okay.
And it had been around for about 70 years.
Wow.
We were all part of that. So this wasn't my first trip to England. In 1977, we went and played for Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee.
Really?
Yeah. So we went over, and so my parents were always involved. So then when my kids got old enough, my daughter played trumpet in the Fitch band. My son was a drummer. She ended up being a rifle twirler in the rifle line and the captain.
Okay.
And my son was captain of the drum line.
Wow.
So the different things I saw my mother do over the years and my dad do over the years to help those organizations, I ended up becoming the president of the Fitch Band Parents. I said it was in my blood. My dad had been president of the Fitch Band Parents, and I was president of it. And we started a thing called Jazz and Dessert. So a friend of mine, Lisa Scannell, she was just an amazing parent. She liked to bake too. So at one point, I think it was 48 different bakers and desserts at the middle school, where the cafeteria also is the auditorium.
Okay.
So up on the stage, we had the middle school jazz bands playing, the high school jazz bands playing. We even went and recruited alumni and had an alumni jazz band.
Oh, that's cool.
So for 4 hours while the jazz bands played, and you had this nice thing in the background, you would come in, you'd buy a ticket that'd have like 10 punches on it, and you'd wander around the tables and pick out 10 desserts you'd like.
So
and
cool.
so we did that for 5 years until COVID hit, but we did that as a fundraiser for the kids. So in doing that,
I want you to have that again.
I want them to have it again. I've told them.
I know your kids are out.
I've told them my kids are out, but I'm still there to help. So that one I come back and help on. But in doing that, I looked and I organized it, and again we had a lot of bakers from the cookie table. Just if you go onto the Youngstown Cookie Table website, a lot of those bakers posting, they came out and they donated cookies for people to taste, and then they sold some of their things, and we gave trophies out. And my mother back then was still baking. Oh, so really? In her 90s.
My goodness.
She won one year.
Did she?
Yes, her mandarin orange cake with pineapple frosting.
Oh my.
So.
Oh my.
And then she would tell me, you didn't give them a big enough piece. So, but we did that. And in doing that, I was going, okay, we've got people making cookies, and I'm looking for the different desserts. And I think that helped me with my road to the tent, because I just made some different things there. Yeah. And I went out. That's when I first tried macarons. Making those. And again, macarons are things, if you're faint-hearted, don't try to make macarons, because they will drive you nuts.
I can imagine.
There are all different types of things that can go wrong with those. But like I said, regardless of how they turn out, they're really good.
Oh my goodness,
and if they're a little soggy or whatever, just break them up over ice cream, then everything's good.
There you go. There you go. All right, so let's talk about your wife for a second, okay? So I met her at the same night market, because she had a table right next to yours.
Yes.
Because apparently she's a huge Disney fan.
My wife and my daughter are the biggest Disney fans I've ever met.
Wow. Okay.
My son, he's 22. He decided this last time we went, we did Epcot, and when you're over 21, you can drink at Epcot. So you can drink around the world. So my son is now an Epcot fan. He's not a Disney fan.
He's not. He wants to go.
But my wife and daughter, they started thinking several years ago on different things, and everyone in Disney wears these ears.
Yeah.
So they said, how can we make that as an art project and different things? So they ended up getting resin, and my house is always, because of my wife and daughter, filled with glitter. Way too much glitter.
Way too much.
And so there's glitter in there, and then my wife will die cut different things that she embeds in the glitter. Or my daughter just went down to the flower and garden show, and they had to buy dried fresh flowers to put in ears for her to wear down there. So and they make these, and she sells them, and she has a little online store, Mary Mouse & Co.
Yes. Okay. Mary Mouse and Co. And it's custom, and people could put in orders, right?
Yes, on Spotify she has, or no, not Spotify, Shopify.
Okay, yeah.
All these Fi's. On Shopify, she has a store.
Yeah.
And you can go through and
how creative.
So she just did the flea at Fellows Riverside Gardens the other day.
Oh, yeah, the Mother's Day flea.
Yeah, and she'll be there Thursday night too.
Okay, good. Yeah, so for all you Disney fans who want custom or unique ears.
Some of them even glow in the dark. They put special powders in them, and she makes there's castles with bats flying around for Halloween.
Oh, very creative. Well, there you go. You will not blend in when you got cool ears. And when everybody's wearing ears, it just becomes a sea of ears.
And when the sun hits them, you shine.
Oh, okay.
There's all that glitter.
Oh, right. So even for the Disney, like that's a great gift for people who like, I'm not, I've never been to Disney ever, but I have a friend who loves it. She's like an expert. So that would be a great gift for people like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So even if you know somebody who's like hard to buy for, but they love Disney, there you go. Mary Mouse and Co.
Yes.
Very cool. So it's entrepreneurship, creativity just runs. It's like oozing out of your.
It's there.
Out of your.
And the dog just tries to stay out of the way.
Oh.
Sometimes you come home and Tater's covered in glitter.
Oh, that's so funny. They have ears on him. That's
she. Tater Bell. She's like Tinkerbell.
Oh,
Tater
that's
Bell.
so funny. Oh, that's hilarious. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk to us about this amazing. I cannot believe it's almost been an hour. That's so crazy. Like, how did that even happen? That's so. And there's so many different directions we could have even gone. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And just another plug, guys. I'm serious, because right out of Youngstown, Ohio, he went all the way to England to be under the great white tent for this great American baking show, which will air on Roku April 20th.
No, May. Friday, May 24th.
April's done.
Friday, May 24th.
Friday, May 24th.
RokuChannel.com.
Free for everyone to watch, and definitely root for this local guy. I mean, I know the winner has already been declared, but it'll be fun. They keep it under wraps.
And you do know what the prize is for winning.
Oh, no. Tell us.
A cake plate.
What? Are you serious? Because I almost asked you, like, what's the grand prize?
A cake plate.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
And that's part of the great thing about this. So we're there for the love of this. And
come on. That and the experience.
Yes.
And you're richer for it. You're richer, definitely for it. Wow. Unbelievable. A cake plate.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's great. That's great. Okay, so here's my invitation to all your competitors. Come to Youngstown and let's do a cook-off, a great Youngstown cook-off. And I will be a judge.
We can all bake for you.
Just a suggestion. I mean, I'm just putting it out there.
Chris will show up.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, you.
Everyone else, you can come too.
Yes. We have Airbnb units. You could come here. It'll be a blast. All right. So one thing that I always like to ask every guest is, there's no compliment quite like word of mouth compliments. So just to, kind of spread some of your favorite places. Now, you travel quite a bit through Akron, so it could be anywhere between Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Oh, no, it's got to be in Youngstown area.
All right. 3 of your favorite local places that you like to go. It could be restaurants, it could be a mechanic, it could be a law firm, it could be just something that you would suggest, or dentist, it could be something that you would just tell your friends, oh, this is great.
Okay, so if you come to Youngstown, first of all, you've got to go to Mill Creek Park.
Yes.
There is nothing that can compare to Mill Creek Park. Fellows Riverside Gardens. That's just something
such a gem
that you would never expect to find as you're driving through town.
Especially in this region.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be a Youngstown cookie table. So you got to find someone getting married in Youngstown.
Crash a wedding.
You've got to go to a cookie table. So it doesn't matter what the bride's dress looked like. It doesn't matter what the cake looked like. The next day, everyone's saying, were their clothes pinned and how were they? So Youngstown cookie table's number 2.
How would you crash a Youngstown wedding? Just, you would say, like, I don't know, like a Youngstown wedding, you could just.
Well, my son's still single, so if somebody, there's one to come to, and there'll be a lot of cookies at that one.
Right, yeah, okay. All right, and then.
He's not going to be happy.
There we go.
My daughter would think it's funny.
And then we'll invite everybody.
Yes. We're not even having food, just cookies.
Just cookies. I love it. Tell your son to hurry it up.
It's okay. He can take his time. Okay, then number 3. 3 is a real toss-up.
Okay.
3 is a toss-up. And I keep leaning back and forth. So there's Avalon Pizza, and there's Wedgwood Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm from Austintown, so I gotta say, but shouts out to Wedgwood Pizza, but Avalon, that crust.
Oh my goodness.
And the Briar Hill pizzas.
Oh, yes.
I mean, even.
Have you ever had the done up? What is it called? Done up Briar Hill pizza.
No,
it's not on the menu. You just gotta say,
too much. I like my traditional classic one.
It wasn't that invented in Youngstown?
Briar Hill?
Yeah.
Briar Hill's a Youngstown pizza.
Come on. So for those of you, can you explain to your friends out of Youngstown what Briar Hill pizza is?
Okay. Briar Hill pizza, the dough it's got some little sweet tinge to it there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you can get it there, or St. Anthony's Church, theirs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was it Ernie DiRenzo, I think, is the guy who makes the pizzas and in charge of the pizzas.
Yes. St. Anthony's.
St. Anthony's. Yes. Oh my God. Those pizzas, my neighbor the other day came over and said, I couldn't finish my pizza. Do you want any? And I went, no. He goes, it's St. Anthony's. I go, give me. So we put sauce on the pizza.
Yep.
And then we put roasted sweet peppers. And then after the pizza's done, sprinkle Romano Parmesan on top of it. And that's it. We don't mess it up. We don't make it too complicated, and it's the greatest pizza ever.
It is so good. And the story is pretty cool because I heard, I'm not Italian, but this is what I heard, is that during the Great Depression and some of the times where things were hard, the neighborhood would get together and they'd be like, oh, we have tomatoes. So they'd make the sauce and peppers. Somebody would grow peppers. And then they couldn't afford the rich cheeses, the mozzarella and stuff.
Why they sprinkled
that's why they sprinkle. And that's how Briar Hill. So it was born out of struggle, which has become this great story and this great pizza. Oh my goodness.
And then they also have a pizza with greens on it. So if you eat that, that'll bring you back right here to
the
Italian restaurant here.
Wait a minute, Avalon does?
I think Avalon does. I think I've had it there.
Now they have one of their newest ones is a hot honey pesto pizza.
I've heard about that. Someone was telling me that thing is amazing.
Oh man, it's so good. Yeah. Everybody.
So you have to watch to see if they make pizza in the tent.
Yes. Hey, there you go. Great baking baking show. Great American Baking Show Pizza Edition. That's just an
May
idea.
24th. Roku channel.
Yes, definitely watch it. And now, if they want to, let's just say that we're all watching it and we're like, oh my goodness, we want to reach out to you.
You can binge it.
Oh, okay, we want to reach out to you.
Okay.
Like, just say, hey, good job, or wow.
So it's easy at Instagram at Brad Gessner, BradGessner. Follow me. And I've done some little videos of me making stuff. I put some recipes up, and I've got 7 friends that their links are all there too. And you can go all over the country with great bakers.
Oh yeah, we'll come to you. We'll come Youngstown Click Tour. That's what we'll do.
So if you like them enough, you can bring them all here, so they can all stay in these beautiful Airbnbs. Yes. There's a kitchen in each one. RJ, I think this kitchen's bigger than the one you had in your apartment. So.
Okay. I love it. All right. So, yes. So Instagram, because guys, don't hesitate to reach out and be like, oh my goodness, I saw this or whatever. Just interact with him, our local contestant, throughout the show. And how many times do you get that opportunity?
Yeah. And if you send me a question, if I can, I'll give you an answer.
Right. And if he can't, Don't be trying to get some spoiler alerts. Just watch it. All right. I do want to thank the Roku channel for allowing us to talk about this preceding the debut or premiere.
Yeah, they gave
of
us
it.
a little tough time.
They
But you just kept bending them. Relentless. That's another thing. People from Youngstown are relentless.
You're right. Oh, you're right. Oh my goodness. So yes, so thank you. Thank you, Roku. Thank you, Brad.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you to all your contestants, even though we don't know them. Thank you for being good sports. And until next time.
I have
yes.
to say one thing. Jen's dog, London. Hi, London.
Oh, that's a good
Jen
dog.
was so sad when we were in London because her dog was home.
And she always had to think of it.
So as we walk around the neighborhood, she would ask us, do you think those people will mind if I pet their dog?
Oh, what kind of dogs does she have?
Oh, I don't know what exactly London is.
Oh, but I could
London
see.
is really cute. Positively London on Instagram. PAW, Positively London. Like London.
Oh, I love it.
Like Jen, like Victoria,
Yeah.
like Mackenzie, Royun,
And they're all
Nicole,
on your
and
Instagram.
Chris and RJ. Yep.
Perfect. All right, guys, let's show the Youngstown love and support for this whole crew and this whole team, and especially our very own Brad Gessner. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of Youngstown. Thank you for making us all greater, because we as a community are greater because of your presence, because of your voice, because of your support. So until next time, always, always remember that you are the best part of what makes Youngstown click. We'll talk to you later.